Who are the mysterious black-cloaked individuals who have it out for Norman Osborn, and is this a problem that only Spider-Man can solve? Well, let's hop into the pages of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 14 and find out together, shall we? So then, last time on the adventures of the amazing Norman Man, the former Green Goblin was feeling about as low as one could possibly feel. He tried to do what he thought was the right thing, keeping Peter Parker's identity as Spider-Man warm while he was off in space having his own adventure. Because, as it stands right now, Norman is pretending to be Spider-Man, Ben Reilly is pretending to be Peter, and Peter is pretending to be the Guardians of the Galaxy. For a second there, things were actually going old Normie's way, that is, of course, until he came up upon Miles Morales and the rest of Spider-Man's assorted spider friends. Oh, not because they beat him in a fight or anything, but only because they poked some very obvious holes in Norman's logic here of trying to be Spider-Man while Peter's away. Which means, yeah, we're only a couple issues into this new status quo and Norman is already having his whole Spider-Man no more internal conflict that every wall crawler has to go through at one point or another. Hey, at least he's getting his out of the way nice and early, right? Now, elsewhere in the city, we see that Chasm and Hallows Eve are breaking up a mob casino. Oh, not because Ben thinks fighting crime is the right thing to do, but because this is what Janine wanted to do. Actually, come to think of it, we're still not exactly 100% certain why Ben saw fit to try and take over Peter's life while he's away or what his ultimate end game is. What we do know for sure, though, is that Janine is getting jealous of all the other women that Ben is spending time with, Black Cat, and of course his boss at work. Oh geez, it's nice to know that Hallows Eve can fill the role of Manic Pixie Dream Girl and nagging girlfriend all at once. Seriously, all the character assassination for Ben Reilly couldn't be more obvious, but I think what they've done to Janine bugs me almost a little bit more. Because think about it, not only did she basically do nothing to nobody, but she was inactive for years, was only resurrected to be part of Ben's sounding board. And then for some reason they decided to have her break bad and lose her mind right around the same time as her boyfriend. It would actually be pretty sad and tragic if that's what we were supposed to take away from the story, but for some reason we never are. Now, the next day at breakfast, Ben as Peter takes a very important meeting with his boss at Rand, Dr. Milton. It was implied in a previous issue that she has a strained relationship with her son, and in this issue the doctor actually tries to open up to Peter about this and how it might up affecting their work relationship, but before she can actually finish that thought, she ends up getting completely cut off by Norman, who inserts himself in the conversation to try and get Ben to follow him outside. Now, this is actually a really fun back and forth here because Dr. Milton naturally jumps to the conclusion that Norman must be in the wrong in this situation, that he is at best harassing Peter and at worst maybe trying to steal him away back to his company. Funnier still, Milton assumes that Osborn, being such a corporate dinosaur, probably doesn't respect her for being a woman in business, let alone a successful woman of color. Yet, ironically, it's actually Norman who was trying to help her out in this situation by getting her away from an imposter whose motives, like I said, are still not truly known. It's also kind of funny too to see how much Dr. Milton really respects and is trying to protect Ben as Peter in this situation. Is he really that charming that he's managed to win her over in such a short amount of time? Ben doesn't seem to repay that level of respect. In fact, he walks off while the two CEOs are arguing. And again, it's here that Kelly actually chooses to follow on a rather interesting direction. You see, Dr. Milton gets a call from her son's school. Apparently he's been expelled. It's an awkward situation, but one wherein Norman, in a very surprising change for his character, decides to open up and be genuine and vulnerable to this woman, saying that he knows full well what it's like to raise a son and to be a crappy single parent. Unfortunately, though, before this conversation can end up going anywhere, the restaurant ends up getting attacked by a giant robot, the same one we saw at the end of the previous issue. Oh, but this isn't just any killer robot either. This is a Spider Slayer, the killer robots made famous by the Smythe family, though in this situation they've been repurposed into a Goblin Slayer by those cloak guys from the last issue who all rally around the same phrase, Sic Semptum Monstrous. But more on that in a minute, as this issue actually comes packing some rather important movement in the B-plot department. We see that Aunt May, fed up after getting ghosted by Peter for this long, decides to just go to his apartment and leave a letter, only she ends up coming face to face with a buxom blonde woman wearing a man's shirt. Obviously, May is a little upset at the idea that the young man that she raised is completely ignoring her now in favor of pursuing marathon pipe-laying sessions. But, for as far as I'm concerned, congrats to Janine and Ben for at least distracting Aunt May with a happy fiction instead of the usual Peter can't come out to play right now because he's too depressed and in his own head. There's also some stuff with Nearing too. He's getting very close to finishing his and fake Peter's new mushroom project, though Astrid, one of the other scientists who works at Rand, can see that he's really burning the candle at both ends and that it's kind of unfair that Peter is going to swoop on in and steal most of the credit for this project. When Nearing is obviously just as smart as Peter, well, just as smart as Ben pretending to be Peter. Now back at the restaurant with no one actually on hand to help defend Dr. Milton and the rest of the patrons from this killer robot, Norman decides to go back on his vow of not being Spider-Man to suit up and try and save the day, and wouldn't you know it, he doesn't even have to do it on his own this time as Captain Kintsugi has returned, and is doing his best to continue to fight the good fight despite the fact that he's gotten the crap knocked out of him basically every other time he's tried. Hey, speaking of which, wasn't Kintsugi there when Hellgate beat Spider-Man? Is there a good chance this kid might actually know more than he's letting on? I wonder. Once Norman finds out Kintsugi's shield is a titanium alloy, he decides to pick it up and make short work of the Goblin Slayer. Norman admits that this is all kind of a crazy feeling for him right now, mainly because this is the first time he's been Spider-Man in the light of day. Every other time he's gone out in secret to fight crime by night. But now, not only has he saved the day, but he's actually had a superheroic team up with this young hero who looks up to him. People are even cheering him from the sidelines, well, everyone except for Ben, who is, let's face it, as sour as he's ever been. It's made abundantly clear whatever Norman thought about being Spider-Man, thought about being a hero, those ideas are all quickly changing. Hey, what about that cabal that sent the Spider Slayer? Well, they're royally pissed off, including the main woman we've been seeing, whose name is revealed to be Electo in this issue. In fact, the only person who's in a good mood at all is actually Roderick Kingsley. He was the one piloting the Spider Slayer, and he believes that it shows a lot of potential, it just needs some goblin upgrades. And it's on that note right there the comic comes to a close, everybody, and so that was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 14, and if you couldn't tell, I felt once again the good parts of this comic actually outweighed the bad. Norman's weird, fumbly, bumbly quest to be a hero continues to keep me invested. There's just something so engrossing about our main POV character's big battle not being with the robot assassin who's trying to kill him, but with his own never-ending sense of self-hate. You shouldn't want to root for Norman because you know it's only a matter of time before they eventually flip the switch and make him be the Goblin again, and yet to see him fight against those inevitable odds and learn new stuff about what it means to be a hero and about all the weight that's been put on Peter for years, well, again, it's just something that I'm enjoying. Now, transversely, I wish I could say more about the Ben plot, which actually takes up more of this issue than it has in the past, mainly that we don't know what he's doing. And I'm honestly at the point now I wish they would just shit or get off the pot. I know they want to have a sense of mystery going on, but I quite frankly just have no patience and no faith in what writers are going to do with Ben Reilly next. I mean, I certainly hope I'm wrong, and I hope I walk away from this series going, man, you know what, Joe Kelly put right what once went wrong and actually put Ben back on track. I doubt it's gonna happen, but a man can hope. Overall, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this one a 7 out of 10. Not as good as the totally spaced out Spider-Man stuff from the previous issue, but still compelling enough to keep me invested. Part of me does have to wonder, though, for this new era of Spider-Man where they basically trade off POV every other issue, if some people are gonna start skipping the Norman stuff or the space stuff and only read what they want to read. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, you know, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.